My 22F mom, 47F, cut off my teenage siblings, 16M, 13M, because our dad, 45M, asked them not to say anything about him cheating. Growing up, I genuinely thought I had a good family. My parents weren't perfect, but they seemed close. They laughed together, went on trips with us, and made an effort to spend time as a family. My siblings and I were close too. We used to take vacations, road trips, and random weekend outings. Holidays felt warm, safe, normal. Somewhere along the way, all of that slowly stopped. The trips became less frequent, then disappeared altogether. My parents didn't sit together as much. Conversations felt shorter and more tense. My dad started spending more and more time at work. At the time, we didn't question it. We just assumed adulthood was busy and stressful. Now I'm realizing that was probably when everything started to fall apart. I'm 22F. My brothers are 16M and 13M. A few weeks ago, my mom found out that my dad has been cheating on her. I don't know how long it's been going on or how many times, but there's one specific situation that blew everything up. Apparently, my dad has been involved with a female friend, and my younger brothers knew about her. According to them, they thought she was just someone he was close to. They say they didn't fully understand that it was an ongoing affair, but my dad did ask them not to say anything to our mom. And they didn't. When my mom found out, she completely lost it. She confronted my brothers directly and called them liars and cowards to their faces. Then she told them she wanted nothing to do with them. As in, emotionally cut them off. She hasn't spoken to them since. I understand her anger. I really do. I'm furious at my dad, and if I'm being honest, I was angry at my brothers too at first. Finding out they knew something and didn't say anything hurt. But they're kids. They were put in an impossible position by our father. He's the parent. He's the one who cheated. He's the one who asked his own children to keep secrets for him. They were scared of going against him and blowing up the family they thought they were protecting. Now my mom is directing all of her rage at them instead. My brothers are devastated. They feel abandoned. They keep asking me what they did wrong and why mom hates them now. I don't even know what to say, because none of this should be on them. My dad is the one who should be shunned here, not the teenagers he manipulated into staying quiet. I honestly don't know what he was thinking. Maybe some twisted, boys will be boys, mentality, maybe pure selfishness, but either way it was unbelievably irresponsible. What makes this harder is my mom's personality. She's stubborn and very prideful. Once she feels betrayed, she shuts down completely. I don't know how to even approach her without making things worse. I also hate that I'm being pulled into the middle of this. I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't ask anyone to keep secrets. But somehow, I'm the one trying to hold everyone together while watching my younger brothers get emotionally crushed. I want to help my mom heal. I want to protect my brothers. And I want my dad to actually face the consequences of what he did instead of hiding behind his kids. I just don't know where to start. The day after everything came out was somehow worse. My mom didn't speak to my brothers at all. Not a word, not even eye contact. They tried, though. My 16M brother knocked on her bedroom door in the morning and asked if they could talk. She didn't answer. Later, my 13M brother quietly said, "Mom," when she walked past him in the hallway, and she completely ignored him like he wasn't there. Watching that was brutal. My brothers didn't stop trying. They kept asking me what to say, how to apologize, how to explain themselves. They weren't defensive or angry, just scared and desperate to fix something they didn't even fully understand how they broke. Every attempt ended the same way, silence. My mom didn't cook anything all day, which might sound small, but in our house it was huge. She's always been the type to cook even when she's upset. Food was how she showed care. That day, the kitchen stayed cold. No breakfast, no lunch, no dinner. Everyone just kind of hovered around, opening the fridge, closing it again, not really hungry but also too tense to eat. The house felt heavy, like no one was allowed to exist without making her angrier. And she was angry, constantly. She snapped at little things. A door closing too loudly. Someone asking a simple question. The TV being on. Even normal noises seemed to set her off. At one point she yelled at my brother for leaving a glass in the sink, even though he had been doing everything he could to stay out of her way. The frustration in the house kept building. My brothers were walking on eggshells, terrified of making things worse. I was exhausted, trying to calm everyone down while also holding in my own anger. And my dad, he mostly stayed out of sight, which somehow made everything feel even more unfair. It felt like my mom's pain had turned into something that was consuming everyone else in the house, especially my brothers. They weren't just being punished, they were being erased. I understand that she's heartbroken. I understand that betrayal like this changes a person. But watching her completely shut out her own kids who were manipulated and scared, made me feel sick. I don't know how long she plans to keep ignoring them. I don't know if she even realizes how deeply this is affecting them. All I know is that the silence hurts more than the yelling would. And I'm scared that the longer this goes on, the more damage it's going to do, damage that won't be easy to undo later. The next day, I finally decided I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I waited until my brothers were out of the house so they wouldn't hear any of it. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her phone, barely touching her coffee. I asked if we could talk, and after a long pause, she said yes without looking up. I told her I was worried about my brothers. That's when everything came out. She said she felt humiliated. Not just hurt, humiliated. She said knowing that her own children knew something was wrong and didn't come to her made her feel stupid and exposed. Like everyone was laughing behind her back. They chose his side, she said. That's what hurts the most. I told her they didn't choose sides. They were scared kids who were told by their father to stay quiet. But she shook her head. They're closer to him, she said firmly. They always have been. They talk to him more. They defend him. And now I know why. She admitted that a big part of why she couldn't forgive them right now was her pride. Hearing her say it out loud shocked me, but she didn't hesitate. My pride won't let me, she said. If I forgive them, it feels like I'm accepting what they did to me. I tried to explain that forgiving them didn't mean excusing my dad or what he did. That this wasn't the same thing. That she was punishing the wrong people. But she wasn't ready to hear it. She said she felt like she had lost her authority as a mother, like the respect in the family had disappeared overnight. And instead of directing all of that anger at my dad, it was spilling onto the people she felt had betrayed her emotionally. I asked her if she understood how much this was hurting them. She went quiet for a moment and then said, "They're old enough to understand consequences." That sentence hit me hard. I told her they weren't old enough to be put in the middle of a marriage problem. That they didn't cheat. That they didn't lie to hurt her. They were manipulated by an adult they trusted. She got defensive then, said I didn't understand because I wasn't married and hadn't been betrayed like she had. She said everyone expected her to just be the bigger person and forgive, while no one cared about her pain. And in that moment, I realized something that scared me. She wasn't seeing my brothers as her children right now. She was seeing them as extensions of my dad. And as long as she saw them that way, nothing I said was going to change her mind. I left that conversation feeling defeated. I understood her pain more than I did before, but I also realized how deeply stuck she was in it. Her pride, her anger, and her sense of betrayal were all tangled together, and my brothers were caught right in the middle. I don't know how long she plans to hold on to this, or what kind of damage it's going to leave behind. All I know is that I walked away from that talk with a pit in my stomach, realizing that fixing this might be way harder than I thought. That evening, my dad came back into town. He'd been out for work while everything exploded, which somehow made it worse. He missed the initial fallout, the screaming, the silence, the way my brothers were being completely shut out by our mom. By the time he walked through the door with his suitcase, the house already felt broken. He acted like he was stepping into a misunderstanding, not a crisis. The first thing he did was try to lower the temperature of the room. He kept saying things like, "Everyone needs to calm down," and, "This doesn't need to be blown out of proportion." Hearing that made something in me snap internally. He sat down and said he just wanted to talk things through like adults. When my mom brought up the cheating, he didn't deny it, but he didn't own it either. He kept calling it a situation, or a mistake, never an affair. He said it was complicated. He said it didn't mean anything. He said he was under a lot of stress at work. Then he got to the part that made me furious. He said the boys didn't know what was really going on. That he never meant to involve them. That he just didn't want to burden them with adult problems. According to him, asking them to stay quiet wasn't manipulation, it was protection. My brothers were sitting there, staring at the floor. I watched their faces as he talked, and I could tell they were confused. Almost relieved, like they were hoping he'd somehow fix everything by explaining it away. But all he was doing was minimizing the damage. When my mom accused him of turning their kids against her, he pushed back. He said they were closer to him because he was easier to talk to. He said teenagers naturally gravitate toward the parent who's less strict. He framed it like this was just an unfortunate dynamic, not something he actively caused. He also didn't defend my brothers the way I thought he would. Instead of taking full responsibility and saying, "This is on me, leave them out of it," he focused on how hurt he felt that the family was falling apart. He talked about how hard this was on him, how everyone was attacking him, how he felt misunderstood. At one point, he even said, "I think we're all making this worse than it has to be." That's when I realized he still didn't get it. This wasn't about one mistake. This was about betrayal, manipulation, and the emotional mess he left behind for everyone else to clean up. And instead of stepping up, he was trying to shrink it down until it was small enough to escape. My mom was shaking by the end of the conversation, not calmer like he'd intended. My brothers looked more lost than ever. And I felt this overwhelming sense of anger, not just at what he'd done, but at how casually he was trying to walk away from it. He went to bed that night acting like things would somehow settle if everyone just stopped talking about it. But nothing felt settled. If anything, the damage felt deeper. Like the moment for real accountability had passed, and now we were all stuck living inside the consequences. Later that night, everything finally boiled over. My dad acted like the conversation earlier had been productive, like we were supposed to just go to sleep and wake up to a calmer household. But the tension didn't fade. It just sat there, heavy and suffocating, until it snapped. It started quietly. My mom confronted him in the living room after my brothers had gone to their rooms. I wasn't planning on listening, but their voices carried, and then it wasn't possible not to hear. She accused him of downplaying what he did, of acting like this was just a misunderstanding instead of a betrayal that shattered her trust. He responded by telling her she was being dramatic and letting her emotions control the situation. That word, dramatic, set her off. She told him he didn't get to decide how much pain he caused. That he didn't get to rewrite what happened just because facing it made him uncomfortable. He fired back that she was taking everything out on the kids and that wasn't fair either. That was the moment I stepped in. I told him that if he truly cared about his kids, he would take full responsibility instead of hiding behind them. That asking them to keep secrets for him was wrong, no matter how he tried to frame it. He immediately went on the defensive. He said he never forced them to lie. He said they could have told her at any time. He said he didn't control them. I pointed out that when you're a parent, asking a child to keep a secret from the other parent is control. It puts fear and loyalty into conflict. He brushed it off and said I was exaggerating. That's when my mom exploded. She screamed that he had turned her own children into strangers. That every time she looked at them now, she saw his lies reflected back at her. He shouted back that she was destroying her relationship with them by refusing to forgive. They started talking over each other, voices rising, years of resentment spilling out all at once. He accused her of being cold and distant long before the affair. She accused him of checking out of the marriage years ago. He claimed he stayed for the kids. She said he stayed because it was convenient. At one point, he said, "You're punishing everyone because you're hurt." She shot back, "And you hurt everyone because you're selfish." The argument went in circles, getting louder and uglier. There was no resolution, just blame being thrown back and forth like weapons. I remember standing there, realizing this wasn't about fixing anything anymore. It was about winning, about who could hurt the other more. Eventually, my dad stormed off into the bedroom and slammed the door. My mom stood in the living room shaking, tears running down her face, looking completely hollowed out. I didn't know who to comfort first. The house finally went quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that comes after something breaks beyond repair. And I lay awake that night knowing one thing for sure. Whatever our family used to be was gone, and none of us were going to walk away from this without scars. The next morning, I woke up knowing I couldn't keep absorbing everyone else's chaos. I hadn't slept much, my head hurt, my chest felt tight, and I kept replaying the argument from the night before. At some point, I realized something important. I couldn't fix their marriage, and I couldn't keep acting like the emotional mediator for two adults who were refusing to take responsibility. So I decided to set boundaries. I talked to my dad first. I told him I wasn't going to listen to him minimize what he did anymore. I said very clearly that cheating wasn't a mistake, or a situation, and involving his kids, whether he intended to or not, was wrong. I told him that if he wanted any kind of relationship with me moving forward, he needed to take full accountability instead of deflecting or playing the victim. He tried to interrupt me, but I didn't let him. I told him I wasn't going to be his messenger, and I wasn't going to help smooth things over with my mom on his behalf. I also told him that if he continued to put my brothers in the middle or act like they had equal blame, I would step in and remove myself, and them, from the conversation entirely. He didn't like that. He said I was being unfair and that I didn't understand how complicated marriage is. I told him that complexity doesn't excuse betrayal or manipulation. I ended the conversation by telling him that his relationship with his kids was his responsibility to fix, not mine. Then I talked to my mom. That conversation was harder. I told her I understood her pain and that what my dad did was unforgivable in many ways. But I also told her I wouldn't support her cutting off my brothers or treating them like they were disposable. I said I would not participate in ignoring them, shaming them, or punishing them for something they didn't cause. She immediately got defensive. She said I was choosing sides. I told her I wasn't. I was choosing the kids. I reminded her that they were still her children, and that her silence was hurting them more than she realized. I also told her something that scared me to say out loud, that if she continued to emotionally shut them out, it was going to permanently damage their relationship, maybe beyond repair. That pride wasn't worth losing her sons. She went quiet. I didn't demand she forgive them. I didn't ask her to pretend everything was okay. I just told her that I needed her to stop punishing them for their father's actions, and that if she couldn't, I would make sure they had emotional support elsewhere. That was my boundary. I told both of my parents the same thing in different ways. I will not be the buffer. I will not carry their anger. And I will not let my brothers be collateral damage in their marriage problems. I don't know if either of them truly heard me. But for the first time since all of this started, I felt like I'd done something I could control. I couldn't fix the family, but I could protect myself, and I could protect my brothers as much as possible. And honestly, that was enough for now. After setting boundaries with my parents, I sat my brothers down and told them everything. I didn't sugarcoat it, but I also didn't overwhelm them. I told them that what happened between our parents was not their fault. I told them that dad should never have put them in the position of keeping secrets, and that mom's reaction, while coming from pain, was still hurting them in ways that weren't fair. They were quiet at first. My 16M brother just stared at the floor. When he finally spoke, he said he felt like he had failed everyone. He said he knew something was wrong, but he didn't know how serious it was, and he was scared that if he said anything, our family would fall apart, and now it felt like it had anyway. My 13M brother started crying. He said he thought mom hated them. He kept asking if she was ever going to talk to them again, or if she was done being their mom. That part broke me. No kid should ever have to wonder if they've lost their parents' love. They both admitted they felt stuck between two impossible choices, betray dad or hurt mom, and no one had explained to them that neither of those choices should have been theirs to make. I told them about the boundaries I set. I told them I stood up for them, and that I wasn't going to let anyone rewrite this as their fault. I promised them that even if our parents couldn't get their act together, they weren't alone in this. That's when my older brother finally looked relieved. He asked if it was okay that he was angry at both of our parents at the same time. I told him it was more than okay, it was normal. I told them they were allowed to feel confused, hurt, and mad without picking sides. They didn't feel better after that. Nothing was fixed, but they stopped blaming themselves so much. Later that night, they both thanked me. Not in a dramatic way. Just a quiet, thanks for talking to us, and, thanks for having our backs. And honestly, that meant more to me than anything my parents could have said. I still don't know how this is going to end. I don't know if my mom will soften or if my dad will ever fully take responsibility. But I do know one thing. My brothers needed someone to make it clear that they weren't the villains in this story. And I'm glad they know that now. It's been a week since everything blew up, and the house feels different. Not loud anymore, but not peaceful either. More like everyone is coexisting without really connecting. My mom still hasn't fully repaired things with my brothers. She talks to them now, but it's surface level. Short answers. Practical conversations only. No warmth. No affection. It feels more like she's forcing herself to function than actually healing. I can tell she's still holding on to a lot of resentment, especially because they're closer to my dad. That hasn't changed, and I don't think she's ready to let go of that yet. My brothers have noticed. They've stopped trying as hard to initiate conversations with her. Not because they don't care, but because it hurts too much to keep reaching out and getting nothing back. They spend more time in their rooms now, more time on their phones, more time keeping to themselves. The energy they used to bring into the house is gone, and that honestly scares me. My dad is back to acting like things should move on. He's calmer now, almost too calm. He talks like the worst part is over and everyone just needs time. But he still hasn't fully owned the damage he caused, especially to my brothers. He acts like their relationship with mom being strained is just an unfortunate side effect, not something he actively contributed to. The dynamic between my parents is tense but controlled. They don't fight openly anymore, but they don't talk unless they have to. It's very clear they're not a team. They exist in the same space, but emotionally, they're miles apart. As for me, I've pulled back. I still support my brothers, and I check in on them constantly. I make sure they eat. I sit with them. I listen. But I've stopped trying to fix my parents. I stick to the boundaries I set, even when it's uncomfortable. When either of them starts venting or trying to justify themselves, I shut it down. It's not my job. What hurts the most is realizing that the family I thought we were, the vacations, the closeness, the sense of safety, might not come back in the same way. Maybe ever. And I'm grieving that while also trying to protect the people who are still growing up inside this mess. Right now, we're in this weird in-between phase. Nothing is exploding, but nothing is healed either. I don't know what the long-term outcome will be. I just know that my brothers deserved better than being caught in the crossfire of something they didn't cause. And I'm doing the best I can with what I have. At this point, I've accepted that I can't force anyone to recover on my timeline. My mom is still hurting, and I know her reaction comes from betrayal and shock, not a lack of love. But I also see the damage that pride and silence can cause, especially to kids who already feel guilty for something they never should have been involved in. My dad made choices that fractured our family, and while he keeps trying to downplay it, the consequences are very real. No matter how much he wants things to go back to normal, that version of our family doesn't exist anymore. What does exist is what we choose to do next. For now, my priority is my brothers. Making sure they know they're loved. Making sure they don't grow up thinking they're responsible for adult mistakes. Making sure they have at least one person who will consistently show up for them, no matter how messy things get. I've also learned something about myself through all of this. I don't have to carry everyone else's emotions to be a good daughter or sister. Setting boundaries doesn't mean I don't care, it means I care enough to not let this destroy me too. I hope my mom eventually softens. I hope my dad takes real accountability. I hope our family can find a new normal that isn't built on denial or resentment. But if that doesn't happen, I know this much: I did what I could, I protected the people who needed it most, and I didn't stay silent when it mattered.